Good morning, everyone. I'm going to do something a little different today. Something I haven't done quite a while, if ever. I don't know. Maybe, probably not on this channel anyway. I'm going to talk to you about something that may affect you personally, or maybe family members, co-workers, friends, people you care about. Uh, that most people probably don't know about this unless you really stay up on government, whatever, the Congress, the laws, the bills, the things that have been passed and acted upon or sitting on someone's desk or whatever. You may not be aware aware of this, but it's pretty important actually. And I'm calling this a race against time, and you'll understand here in a few minutes. But first, what I'm doing is I'm going to read some things to you. Like I said, it has to do with healthcare. So people aren't interested in healthcare, don't listen. But if you are, maybe you're dealing with some health issues or know someone who does, this is going to be of interest to you, I think. This is the site called govtrack.us, G-O-V track, like track and field, .us, and it's tracking Congress and the White House. And this bill is called HR, so House Resolution 2940 from the 118th Congress, and it's called the Pasture Act, like Louis Pasteur, memory serves. I think he discovered penicillin, I believe. But anyway, and it's an acronym. Interesting that it's an acronym. I'll get into that in a few minutes. They love their acronyms. They're so clever, right? Anyway, so the whole purpose of this thing, without getting into boring details, it is to amend Title III of the Public Health Service Act to establish a program to develop antimicrobial innovations targeting the most challenging pathogens and most threatening infections, and for other purposes. Okay, and the sponsor of this act is Congressman Drew Ferguson. He is a representative for Georgia's 3rd Congressional District. He's a Republican. If you want to read the whole bill, you go to, it's 39 pages, better than thousands, right, like most things, which was last updated on April 27, 2023. So this thing's been around for quite a while, sitting on people's desks, not doing anything. But Congressman Ferguson here apparently has kind of reinvigorated it, let's put it that way. And there's even a way to call or write Congress on the site and so forth. But as of July 18th of this year, it's been, reintroduced. We'll just call it that, HR 2940. It, like I said, it's been going on since April 27th of 2023. That was when the bill was actually introduced. And like I said, people can read it on this site, govtrack.us. And like I said, 39 pages, better than thousands. It has 62 co-sponsors, 31 Republicans, 31 Democrats. That's interesting. All right. So it died in the previous Congress, but it never received a vote. Why is that? All right. Although the bill was not enacted, its provisions could have become law by being included in another bill, but it wasn't. It is common for legislative text to be introduced concurrently in multiple bills called companion bills, reintroduced in subsequent sessions of Congress in new bills, or added to larger bills, sometimes called omnibus bills. Okay, so anyway, it's like, yeah, so, okay, that's fascinating, right? All right, so what is this thing? All right, well, if you do a simple search, and I'll tell you how I found out about this in a few minutes. You just go to Pasture Act, and you can find out what the acronym actually means. This is pretty interesting. Let me look this up. Pasture Act. It stands for, they're so clever, Pasteur, like Louis Pasteur, I'm assuming. Pasteur. It stands for Pioneering Antimicrobial Subscriptions to End Upsurging Resistance. This act aims to address antimicrobial resistance by establishing a subscription model for novel antibiotics and improving public health preparedness. So people are like, well, what the heck does that mean? Well, basically, it means this. Our government has been sitting on this for about 2 years now, where they could have saved many lives, but chose not to. Because antibiotic resistance, if you look that up, let's see, let me find it here. This article came out on December 27th of 2024, so about 6 months ago. This is the last, the most current article I was able to find on this. And this is the debate about this. Is the Pasture Act the correct way to tackle antibiotic resistance? So, the World Health Organization classifies the rise in microorganism resistance to existing medications as a matter of global concern that affects the individual's quality of life regardless of economic status or geographical location. In 2019 alone, 6.22 million deaths were considered associated with or directly as a result of antimicrobial resistance. They call it AMR for short, which, where I'm from, meant American Medical Response. But anyway, in response to such a crisis, the WHO proposed that public health stakeholders worldwide invest efforts in 40 priority actions that can mitigate the rising AMR, including the development of better policies and legislation on healthcare financing and novel antibiotics development. The Pasture Act is a financial support program for researchers and pharmaceutical firms to develop novel antibiotics and ensure their fair use and distribution to patients. Didn't happen. It was introduced first in 2019 and proposed a stimulus of up to $3 billion over 5 to 10 years for beneficiary entities who can focus on developing potent drugs to combat AMR. Excuse me, that's the wrong button here. To combat AMR, where am I? Over high output, less essential medications just to keep business afloat. The program is based on a subscription model in which the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services will pay pharmaceutical companies to provide FDA-approved antibiotic medications at reduced or no cost to patients on federal insurance plans. Isn't that interesting? So first introduced, or first thought about in 2019, been sitting on people's desks for the last 2 years from 2023 to 2025. Now there's a resurgence of it from July 18th of this year, so just a couple weeks ago. And basically, how many people have died in the process? How many people haven't gotten the health care they needed, didn't get the health care they needed? Why? Because billions of dollars went to all kinds of other stuff, through executive order, through the big beautiful bill, you know. Now, to be fair, maybe this is included in the big beautiful bill. But the person I talked to yesterday that didn't necessarily inform me of this, because I had already known about it by talking to them previously. I hadn't talked to them in a long time, actually. They told me that there are talks happening right now, behind-the-scene talks that include the Prez and RFK Jr. and so forth, and they're really pushing this through. And they even told me that they're hoping to get it done by the end of the year. And it was hinted about that, but get this, that it could even happen by the end of September. Dun, dun, dun. Everything's September, isn't it? Just everything's September. People send me all kinds of stuff about September, 923, and, predictive program for this and that. I get it. I find it interesting and fascinating, too. It's just like, it's interesting. There's no doubt about it. September, right? There's been prophetic messages about September. People put all kinds of stuff out about September, right? But my response is always the same, though. It's just like, you got to get through August 1st. And isn't it interesting that August 1st is tomorrow? So you got to get through August 1st. August 1st is tomorrow, right? Well, what happens after tomorrow? Well, all of these new tariffs are supposed to go into effect. Here's the problem with that, though. if you listen to Greg Manarino, who won't be around much longer, at least on YouTube, you're going to have to pay for his stuff now. And that's between him and the Lord, whatever. You know, I understand he wants to build a freedom platform and this and that. I get it, whatever. But the bottom line is, I suppose you can still get a Substack for free or whatever, but he won't be putting all the information out, in the morning and afternoon and everything on YouTube. I think he's going to be doing a YouTube, putting information on YouTube in the afternoon, but no more live streams or something like that. But anyway, it was interesting what he said earlier about that. He said because the the whole thing with the tariffs is no deals have been done. Just a lot of tough talk, a lot of threats. We're going to tax them 25%, 50% tariffs, this and that. If Russia doesn't comply, 200% tariffs. I mean, nothing but tough talk, but no action. No deals, nothing in writing, nothing. Just talk. Well, this may be the same case, may be the same scenario, except this congressman actually is pushing this thing through apparently, and it might actually get voted on sometime in the near future. I don't know. But getting back into the history of this, because it's pretty interesting. Because if you think about how our government screws us constantly, with legislation, big beautiful bills, or whatever they want to call them, and executive orders and whatnot. If you think about how we're all constantly getting hosed, man, this is one way that you would think that everybody could come together to save lives if they cared, which is interesting because apparently they do now, at least according to, the site I just read from, govtrack.us, that you got across the board, 31 Democrats, 31 Republicans. Not that that really matters, but at least they seem to be able to agree on this. But it's interesting because if you continue to go through this article, let me see, what's the site on this? It's called Pharmacy Times. Interesting. Pharmacy Times. So it says in February 2024, Doctors Without Borders released a 16-page document outlining several concerns with Pasteur legislation. That might have been the reason it was held up. They argued that the program does not sufficiently incentivize companies, which must resume investing in higher selling medications and rising prices of antibiotics to maintain business position. Additionally, they highlight issues of equity because Americans without federal insurance coverage and non-citizen patients would not have access to Pasteur subsidized antibiotics. So basically, if you can't afford it, you're out of luck, man. That's pretty much, what the deal is. Let me read that again. Issues of equity because Americans without federal insurance coverage. Is that Obamacare? Is that the health care plan or whatever, the thing that they always wanted everybody to sign up for? Because I imagine if your employer provides some type of medical coverage, that's not federally insured, I don't believe. I'm not an expert on that, but I'm pretty sure they're talking about Obamacare or, what did they call it? The healthcare marketplace? I think that's what they call it. Healthcare marketplace, which they just rob people. If anybody's ever looked into that, they absolutely rob you. You would be paying pretty much everything that you would need to pay your regular bills with just for health insurance that you may or may not need, just to try to stay alive. I mean, do you see how corrupt and evil this is? This is insane, right? So the Doctors With Borders were not exactly a supporter of this. Another point of concern is the cap on partner companies for selling non-antibiotic medication, which is set at a maximum of 5 times the subscription amount. 5 times the subscription amount. So all these people care about is money, man. That's it. It's always money. MSF. What's MSF? Believes. I don't know what MSF is. That's Doctors Without Borders. That's interesting. Doctors Without Borders is called MSF. Didn't know that. MSF believes that such a cap might hinder availability of medications that, although not targeting AMR, are still needed by patients. Support of the Act, however, believe that Pasteur includes sufficient regulations to prioritize truly necessary antibiotic medications, and that the effort to disconnect sales from revenue alone is enough to ensure drug stewardships. Oh my goodness. So they've been arguing about this since 2022, apparently. Critics wrote to Congress in 2022 arguing Pasteur does not address an important determinant of antimicrobial resistance. So anyway, so what's the answer? Why am I calling this a race against time? Well, the information I received yesterday, the conversation I had, was that there is a plan in the works through this act, provided it gets passed, provided it goes, through the proper channels, and it gets signed and so forth into law, that people's lives could actually be saved, possibly. And I don't know if it's going to cost an arm and a leg. I don't know who'll be able to afford it or won't be able to afford it, but it is possible. It says here that despite ongoing debate about the potential success of the Pasteur legislation's effort to pass the bill continue. It has been reintroduced, remember this article was written December of 2024, with a nearly 50% reduction of the initial budget to make it more appealing to Congress. Told you, always about money. The big beautiful bill wasn't about money. All the executive orders aren't about, it's about money in other people's pockets, but people don't care how much that costs. They don't care how much all of that costs. But apparently, when it comes to saving lives, we got to put a cap on that, right? And, speaking of that, I found out yesterday from my wife, and I researched this a little further. Apparently, Deion Sanders, the Colorado football, the Buffs football coach, and of course, NFL Hall of Famer and whatnot, had bladder cancer. Well, Deion's fortunate because Deion's rich, so Deion could afford to pay for his surgery. But I also found out that apparently Deion did this, and according to the information that I received, that I read, and he got turbo cancer from it, because that's what's happening now. People are getting, turbo cancers, myocardial infarctions, cardiac arrest, which myocardial infarction is basically heart attack, cardiac arrest, whatever. Strokes, brain dysfunction, like Billy Joel, for instance. It's all coming around now. It's all coming around. It took a long time. It took a long time. Well, 5 years or whatever, but it's all coming around now. Trains are coming. So, anyway, so they got a debate going on now. Its passage remains uncertain, but like I said, this was from December 2024, December 27, 2024, and then the new enactment to push this thing forward just happened a couple weeks ago, July 18th. So it could go into effect here pretty soon, and this is something people need to be aware of. Pray about it if you feel led to do so. Research it yourself. It's called the Pasture Act, Pasteur. And, I'm telling you what I can tell you about it. I'm not sworn to secrecy or anything like that. I've told you what I can tell you. All I know is there's talks in the works. Whether it becomes a priority or not, whether it happens or not, I don't know. People can research this as much as they want to, but I did talk with the individual about the Deagle report, the John Deagle report, and how it appears that we're well on the way to that. And I wonder, because I brought it up because they mentioned to me, it's just like, man, we won't even have to worry about earthquakes, tsunamis, war, pandemics, scamdemics, new vaxes, whatever else, if this doesn't go through, because this will kill off everybody. As that people can't get the meds that they need to fight off basic infections, and they can't afford the antibiotics that they need to fight off infections. There's no answer for all of the things that are coming up in the world now, as far as plagues and diseases and illnesses and so forth, that a lot of people use antibiotics for to fight off just even the basic infections, that if people don't have the antibiotics, it'll kill them. It'll kill them. And I mentioned, I said, you know what? You might have a point there. I said, because according to the Deagle report, by the end of this year, we're only supposed to have 100, if it's correct, and it appears it may be, we're only supposed to have 100 million Americans left. We're like 330 something million, I think, in the U.S. now. Cut down to 100 million by the end of the year. That's a lot, man. So he may have a point there. He may have a point. So this Pasture Act, hey, whatever people think about politics and Congress and this and that, and I get it. I'm the same way. I think they're mostly useless. But if they can do this, if they can pass this bill, it could save lives. So people, govtrack.us, if you go to the website, govtrack.us, there's a way to call Congress, write Congress, whatever else, express your interest, maybe it saves lives. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I pretty much told you what I could tell you about it, share what I could share. You know, probably shouldn't have told you the talks are in the works, but whatever. They are. That's just talk, though. I mean, and who knows? I mean, all people do is talk. Unless they really, really want something done, then they'll push it through really fast, because this is so important. Other than that, it's just talk and threats, and, if they don't do this, we're going to do this, if they, and then we're going to, flex our muscles in this way and in that way, and let them know who's boss, and blah, 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 and everybody's a tough talker, but maybe something gets done with this. I don't know, but I just want to bring it to everybody's attention. And it kind of is a race against time, because all they got to do is put something new out there, some other thing out there that scares everybody to death and gets them to comply or whatever. And if there's no answers to it, and then people get sick and people die, and it's horrible. And the fact that this has been sitting on people's desks for like 2 years, reintroduced just a couple weeks ago, but it's been around really since 2019 is when they first started talking. Isn't that interesting? 2019, just before everything, right? And then, from like 2023 to 2025 to the current date, it's just basically sitting there. Nobody wants to vote on this. I mean, is it ever going to get voted on? Are they ever going to pass it? Is it ever going to be signed into law? I don't know. But this is how much your government cares about you. That they'll let something sit on the desk for 2 years, but they'll pass a big, beautiful bill, man, within weeks. Or sign an executive order in a day, to screw us over. But they'll let this sit on their desk for 2 years, right? Anyway, just wanted to make you all aware. Hope you all have a good, blessed day. I gotta get going. Take care. Good. Again, it's government, govtrack.us. If you're HR 2940, if you're interested in researching it further, or you can just read the bill, 39 pages. That's a lot, but at least it's not thousands, and you can't hide a lot in 39 pages. I mean, you can, but it might be a straight up bill. Imagine that, a straight up bill that actually does what it says it's going to do. Shocking. All right, y'all take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.